It's what, Saturday morning over there?
Saturday morning here. I'm working on a film here in Auckland with Lee Tomahori, who made Once Were Warriors. So Lee and I have talked about working together for years, and I'm finally getting to do it. So I'm very happy to be here in New Zealand and working with him, and yeah, loving it.
Well, are you ready to talk about our mutual friend, Bruce Cogburn?
Yes, yes.
Well, let's dive in. And like any good story, let's start at the beginning. What was it about the Infernal Machine that really intrigued you, that made you want to like join this project?
Well, as soon as I read the script, I mean, Richard Guardian, who's one of the executives on the film, I know, and he sent me a message and he said, look, we've got this thing that we're putting together, and you know, we're kind of out to another actor at the moment, but you know, I'm not sure if that's going to work out, and you know, I have a feeling you may like this. And I went, great, send it. And as soon as he sent it, and as soon as I read it, I was like, okay, who is the other actor going to do it? So I was immediately taken by the script, by its originality, just the intrigue, the kind of the way in which the character was realized, you know, the drama for the character. So sort of every element of it, I just went, wow, this is right up my alley. I love, as you know, I mean, I love the films that I've gotten to do, like First Snow and Memento, and these great sort of psychological thrillers where I get to play a character who's just managing to hold it together. You know, I find that stuff really enjoyable and fascinating. And whether it's in this setting or whether it's in this setting, if the setting works and the character feels real, then I'm in, you know. So it was a lot about it, and I was quite intimidated at the thought of talking to Andrew, because I just thought, this guy's going to be super intellectual, and I'm going to be really intimidated, and I better really be on my game. And yet, as soon as I started talking to Andrew, he was easy and relaxed and lovely. Couldn't have been nicer. I was like, wow, okay, fantastic. I was like, wow, you wrote this thing, man. It's awesome. I said, so tell me about, is the other actor going to do it or not? He said, well, if you want to do it, if you're really interested, I said, I want to do it. I'm telling you right now, I want to do it. So it was a pretty quick process. I don't know what happened to the other actor. I think it just didn't work out, but.
Fair enough. The first act of this is almost like a chamber play, right? Like you're carrying almost all the dialogue. You're on the phone. It's like a confessional booth within a glass case.
Yes, good image. Yeah.
Well, how was it doing that? And how did you find Bruce's voice?
Well, it's funny actually, because there was a reference in the script which has since been taken out. In the scene with Dwight Tufford at the prison, he asks me where I'm from, and I say, I'm actually forgetting now the town that he said he's from, because it got taken out. We filmed it and then it got taken out. So I said, okay, well, that's where the character's from, and so I need to, you know, work on that accent. And I know that part of the world a little bit because my family in England are from the northeast of England. So it was easy enough for me to kind of get there. And then when I saw the cut of the film and it was taken out, I went, what, you know, and it was, the reason it was in there was to sort of just reference a place that meant nothing to this Dwight Tufford, you know, but the fact that it was taken out, it didn't really matter, because you still get the sense that Bruce is from another part of the world. He's now just isolated himself. It sort of doesn't matter where he's from, really. He's just isolated himself completely from everybody around him, and he's sort of in hiding. So as far as the accent goes, that's where that came from. But as far as the energy and the anxiety, you know, that just sort of naturally came, I think, when I started working on the script. And it's a good question, because it's always the first thing I have to find. Yeah. Or it's the thing that I have to find to really know that I've found the character. You know, once the voice is sort of in place, because to me, that's so representative of what's going on inside a person, whether they're hiding things, whether they're open and honest about things, etc. The voice is a real tell, I think.
To that point, I mean, there is so, not just the voice, but the landscape with this. There's so many like gorgeous wide shots of like Portugal. And it reminds me of what you did with like, kind of like with The Proposition, where you almost let the landscape kind of do a lot of the talking for you. Like,
yes. Sorry.
No, to your point, like how was it filming there?
Well, it's wonderful, and it really does. It's a bit like costume, you know. There are other elements that tell the story, not just you, the actor, carrying it. I think it's one of the things that actors have to remind themselves, that we are not the only vessel through which the story is told. And in fact, I think it's really important to remind yourself of that, because if we do too much, we end up overacting. It happens all the time. We see it all the time. If you find where you fit in the scheme of things, then the little amount that you do that helps propel the story or keeps an audience engaged or enables an emotional sort of track to be mapped and kept is valid. And if it's the right amount, then it's the right amount, because you've got things like landscape, costume, art department work, music, doing heavy lifting as well. Absolutely. And I think in something like this, and like you referenced the Proposition, or you look at The Revenant, the worlds that these characters are in, and I know people used to say it a lot, they say it's like a character in itself. But I do, which I always sort of hated, but I kind of laughed at it as well, but it's sort of true. I get it, but it's more than that. It's not a character. It's an energy, and it's something bigger than all of us. If there's mountains and sort of desert and sort of oceans and things going on that are big, it kind of reminds you, and it reminds the audience, and it reminds the character kind of how insignificant they might be in the midst of all of this. So that in itself, I think, is a really important, and we have a sort of a visceral response to that stuff. You know what it's like if you look out a window and you've got a view versus looking out the window to a brick wall. There's a totally different response to it.
Yeah, that's why I keep my shades down.
Because the view of the mountains is too much.
No, the view of the next apartment complex, sure. But I'm curious, because you evoked Memento, and when you're doing something like a psychological thriller, but at the same time filming out of sequence, how is it like tracking where your character is at that given time?
Well, that's where the work is, I think. That's where I don't let the script go, through the entire process. Basically, it's by my side. People, when I'm on set and I'm sort of got the script there and we're sort of looking at what it is we're doing, and then we say, okay, let's start rehearsing it. There's inevitably someone who comes up to me and says, here, I'll take your script for you and put it out. I'm like, no, don't touch my script. I'll put it somewhere. I need to know that I have this thing exactly where I want it. If someone takes it, they'll put it behind a van somewhere and they won't tell me where they put it. And so I really need to know that I have it close by, because I'm relying on it so much. It is the world that I keep coming back to. It becomes a security blanket as well. And it's the thing that sort of, it's the thing that kind of got me interested in the first place.
I was talking to Andrew, and he said, watching you act, like seeing the dailies come in, he was surprised how much like humor you put into Bruce, like be it like him like in a nightclub, just the places that he's the most uncomfortable in the world. Like, what was it about kind of like lifting that kind of like almost physical comedy with the character?
Well, actually, it's funny you raised that, because I can't remember now really how much discussion we had about how sort of humorous Bruce should seem. And it's always a tricky thing in films, I reckon, humor. Because you've got to be careful as an actor that you're not just playing for gags. If a character is seemingly kind of comical, is it because they are just that way naturally? Or are we just trying to make the film not bog down in sort of earnestness? And, so you've got to make sure you get that stuff right. And that's also the work. It's a sort of a tricky thing. Like I say, like the tracking of a character throughout the film, in your previous question about how you map that stuff, I have it all sort of marked out in the script, and that's also the sort of stuff I have marked out in the script is, is this a moment that's going to feel grave and heavy and needs to be like, whoa, for the audience? Or is this in fact something that feels grave and heavy for the character, but the audience actually need to laugh at him right now? Mm-hmm. They've got to laugh at him because he's being an idiot. So if that's the case, then you see Bruce